Right, guys, we're going to go back to race 4. Let's have a look here. Stella Artois Mufhasa Stakes, Steve. Intriguing little battle this.
Yeah, nice 3-year-olds, boys and girls here. On the Bubbles heads to market, 320 on Wednesday, now trading 2.8. In front of the stablemate, I Wish I Win, 415 to 420, what we call smart money has driven that price in. Bonnie Lass, very solid, very hard in that third line at $5. Dark Destroyer, bouncing between 8 and 8.50, fourth line. Sassy Merlot, 9 out a point to $10. Shares that same price with Beldara and also Bella Luce. And the best of the rest looks to be Zaitaku at $21. But look, clear lead, again with the favourite. He's been well tried this preparation, number one on the Bubbles, 320 to 280 third.
Interesting, Pops. I mean, what do we do with, I guess the whole race sort of hinges on what we decide around On the Bubbles and what we make of that last start run, and perhaps even the trial as well around On the Bubbles.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think we've heard enough from Jamie to suggest that that's just how he is at times. You know, he is a horse that his trial leading into the Karaka Classic, they were happy to put to one side. Now, you'll look at his run and say that he's run into 7th position and maybe it backed it up, but I mean, that was a tough run that he's had in transit and a strongly run race where it's set up for back markers, and he's been beaten, 5.5 lengths by the stablemate and pinned me up. I thought the trial itself was very good for I Wish I Win. Really nice trial from him to be able to finish into 2nd position. I like what I saw from him from coming back in that trial and doing all his best work late in the piece. But look, the money's there again, but are you surprised by that? I mean, On the Bubbles has a pretty big fan club, and a lot of those that are in the ownership, they don't mind having a bet. So that's where that's driving from, for sure, around On the Bubbles. As I said, I Wish I Win. I think with his win down at Trentham, we were looking for that through his 3-year-old preparation. Maybe he's just come back a better horse, and he's a runner that now that's trialled nicely. Just might be in a good space for this. And as you said, you've had some money for the horse, Stephen, which, what was it, 450 to 420?
Yeah, interesting runner, because you go back to its Trentham win. It was a peach of a ride by Opie. He controlled the tempo, second outer. The overall figure was very good at Trentham. The only concern is the second and third horse. You had Not Guilty and Saracen, who post that Trentham race have been out hot favourites in each of their races and have failed. So, yeah, it's a tricky one because the figure was there, but the second and third horse haven't quite gone on with the job post Trentham.
Okay, that's interesting. Paul, On the Bubbles or not On the Bubbles?
I'm looking at the O'Sullivan Scott runner, Dark Destroyer. It comes off a couple of very, very good victories, over 1,400 metres at Matamata, and then over the mile. Just at the odds, what, 850 at the moment. I don't mind him, and I also don't mind the look of Sassy Merlot. She had a third and behind two very smart ones in Seamus and Parianui Bay at Trentham in the was it the Wellington Guineas, and then runner-up in the Desert Gold behind La Creek. So she's found a couple of really, really good ones to finish in front of her the last couple of times out. So yeah, I don't mind the look of her, especially for a top 3 finish anyway.
Okay, Paul's made a good point without even trying there. So
with Dark Destroyer, the best man to ask is BP. He's got a bit of an association with the stable. On Dark Destroyer, before we go to BP, look, I took a set against him at Ellerslie last start, just on the back of his poor Bone Crusher figure, which was around about 5 point lengths below par, and it was first time on a dry deck. Look, the speed map worked perfectly for Dark Destroyer on that day. They absolutely walked. He took the trail. He's just had the odd setbacks, and that's why I want to ask where the horse is at, BP, around Dark Destroyer. Have you heard out of the stable where he is at? Because obviously a few months ago he was touting to be one of the Derby prospects. So he's had the odd setback. Where is the horse at going into Saturday?
Yeah, well, you're right there, Stephen, because it's all been about the Derby. Since that Auckland Guineas victory, which has been great for the stable because they won it, prior with Rocket Spade, who then went on to win the Avondale Guineas. Of course, and then went on to win the Vodafone New Zealand Derby. And prior to that, we saw Dragon Leap win the Auckland Guineas and then go on and win the Avondale Guineas. Of course, started favourite in the Derby to finish into 4th position. So it was naturally just that was the path he was going to take. Now, they had a setback following that race, heading into the Waikato Guineas. Look, only a couple of days out, he was set to start in the race. And it's just been a long, ongoing trying to just get him right again. So that's a little issue they've had there with him. but he seems to be in a good spot. But that's the question mark. You've had a horse that is getting ready for a derby and a little setback, and he's back to 1,400 metres. And I guess you can understand why you want to take a set against him when he's been 63 days off the scene compared to horses like I Wish I Win and On the Bubbles and Bonnie Lass who've been up and running, and Sassy Merlot and those type of horses. The other side of that coin with Dark Destroyer, he is a quality 3-year-old. I mean, he does have distance form over 1,400 metres. He was the winner of the Bone Crush, as you said there, Stephen. He's won an Auckland Guineas. He's been placed in a start, and he's a high-quality 3-year-old with a good draw. I'm guessing Sassy Merlot is going to be the one that will set things up with the wide barrier draw and the good gate speed that she does possess. He can park off them and see the late closer in the race, but you've just got to have that question mark around him where he's at compared to other horses with that gap between runners.
There's probably, the more I look at it, Steve, there's, Paul like Dark Destroyer and Sassy Merlot, there's probably a little bit more depth to this race than I initially thought, outside the top 2 Te Akau runners.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of these horses possibly heading towards the Levin Classic in a couple of weeks' time at Trentham. On the Bubbles sits in that second line in behind stablemate Imperatriz. There is a lot of speed in this race, and that's why I go back to Dark Destroyer. He took a sit over 1,600 metres where they absolutely walked. There's genuine tempo here, so I don't think he'll be able to hold that trailing position from a decent alley. Sassy Merlot, she just wants to get on with the job. On speed, when 6 lengths above par for the first 1,000, the Desert Gold. She led in the Wellington Guineas, went 8 lengths above par for the first half of the race, and then 3 starts back at Ellerslie, she led and hung. So that's a bit of a question mark right-handed around Sassy Merlot. This may be D-Day if she does tend to hang again throughout running. They might just keep her left-handed from here on in. But look, you got her also. Bonnie Lass is a horse that will look to go forward and sit in the first 2 or 3. And also Bella Luce, who led last start up against Bonnie Lass. And just on Bonnie Lass, really good figure last start. I know it wasn't black type, but a decent figure, not too far off the elite here in this race. And as I mentioned, she'll sit in the first 2 or 3 with a little bit of cover, hopefully. So not without a show, Bonnie Lass, who sits in that third line.
Shout out to Aidan Rodley, who we know will be parked on his couch.
Parked on the bench, just waiting for that next opportunity.
Yeah, well, exactly. Don't go on holiday again. He'll snaffle it. BP, how would you approach this from a betting perspective, the Mufhasa?
It's a good race, isn't it? I mean, you mentioned Bonnie Lass there, and of course the horse that ran second to Bonnie Lass and Bella Luce also. Beldara's drawn an inside gate, and she's informed this preparation, who ran third in that Bonnie Lass race in last time to the races. I found it overall a really difficult race, actually, to have something on. I will have something on I Wish I Win. It's a horse I want to gravitate towards with his recent win and how he's trialled up. So, yeah, around the 4.5 or 420 mark now. He's the one I'd like to have on, but gee, you'd like to have something on quite a few other runners in the race too. It's a nice race.
Yeah, it is a nice race. Paul, how would you be attacking it? You like a couple of value runners?
Yeah, I'm willing to have a stab at Dark Destroyer. If he's back to his best, then I think that 850 looks like a wee bit of value. So happy to take Dark Destroyer at 850, and then also Sassy Merlot holding on for a top 3 at $2.80.
Yeah, okay, don't mind that. Obviously, a lot of these horses will be progressing towards a Levin Classic, Steve, you would think. I don't know if the boys have the Levin Classic on standby.
As I mentioned, Imperatriz heads that market at $3. Thad on the back of what we saw last Saturday from memory on the Bubbles, around about that $4 or $5 line. You see there $4 on the Bubbles. Seamus, from all accounts, heading there over the 1,600 metres. We know he's won at Trentham previously at $6. Bonnie Lass, $9. I Wish I Win at $9. Field of Gold, I think, dropping back from 2,000, which we saw in the Avondale Guineas, to 16 at $14. Cacophonics, it was super in the undercard at Matamata last weekend at 14. Miss Ella, I'd love to see her in this race here, but from all accounts, she's heading towards the Oaks. We'll talk about her chances later on the show, but at $14. Then Carmen Line, just not sure where Carmen Line is at $18. So look, if they all head there, even Dark Destroyer might be stepping up to 16 next start in Levin Classic. Probably represents a little bit of value if you like him on Saturday. So. There's over the page Blissful Bell, impressive winner during the week at 26. So I think Te Akau hold the card here, obviously with Imperatriz and possibly what On the Bubbles does on Saturday.
Okay,